welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into something quite specific, aquatic gardening. We're looking at a detailed set of personal notes from an enthusiast who's, well, moving beyond the basics. The topic is integrating one particular plant, Cyperus papyrus, the Egyptian papyrus, into a backyard pond. It's quite a process. Our mission, as always, is to give you that quick, thorough knowledge, focusing on the practical side, those aha moments that save you time, effort, and maybe even a plant's life. We're tracking this journey from, finding the plant to figuring out the setup. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here is that this isn't just about dropping a water lily in. We're straight into the deep end, focusing on the unique challenges of adapting specialized marginal aquatic plants. These notes really show that real-time struggle, The gardener has to weigh up the textbook advice against what they're actually seeing in their own local environment. It's observation versus dogma.
Okay, so let's start with the quest for this plant. The notes are pretty clear. The hobbyist wants visual impact, something architectural, vertical. They're definitely moving past the usual stuff, the submerged plants or, the floaters like duckweed.
Exactly. That quest for drama is key. The notes say they're specifically after aquatic flowering plants.
Yep.
And to understand why papyrus, you have to look at what came right before. There were attempts and a noted failure to grow lotus from seed. That just didn't pan out. So you see the pivot. From the big, horizontal look of the lotus to the tall, slender, vertical papyrus, it shows real dedication, even after a setback.
And getting the papyrus wasn't simple either, was it? The notes mention it took quite a while to actually find and buy an established Cyperus papyrus from a nursery.
Yeah.
So it's a specialty item. The commitment's already high before it even gets near the pond.
Right. And once they got it, the next step was absolutely critical, acclimation. That's the golden rule for introducing anything new to a specific environment, especially after travel. It needs time to sort of settle, deal with the stress.
Yeah, the writer knew that. Standard practice, mentioned right there in the notes.
Yeah.
Let the plant adjust. But the key decision here was where to put it initially. It was kept in a partially shaded area, specifically to help it acclimate to the local microclimate before the big move to the pond.
And this is where we hit that crucial bit of knowledge, the thing that probably saved the plant. See, the writer had done the reading. The textbooks, based on its native habitat, African riverbanks, they all say Cyperus papyrus needs full, intense sun. That's the scientific line.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The notes show a direct conflict with what the writer saw at the nursery. The plant was doing well, thriving, actually, under an exposed canopy roof there. Which gave it partial shade. Hang on, if the books are screaming full sun, why trust what looks like maybe just accidental shading at the nursery? Isn't that just bad placement they should sense?
Well, that's a great question, and it's absolutely key to successful gardening, especially when you move plants. The plant's immediate prior condition is often more critical in the short term than its generalized native habitat needs. What the writer observed, a healthy, established plant thriving in partial shade, was its current successful adaptation to that specific microclimate. If they'd just plunked it straight into full blazing sun based only on the textbook, it almost certainly would have suffered severe shock, scorched leaves, browning, disaster. That initial partial shade acts as a buffer. It mitigates that shock.
So the immediate reality, how the plant looks right now, trumps the general science of where it comes from, at least for that first week or so. Trust the observation.
Exactly. That's the difference between reading the flight manual and actually piloting the plane, right? The acclimation, using that partial shade, is the smart move even for a plant that eventually needs full sun. It's all about managing that transition stress.
Okay, so the plant's found. It's bought. It's successfully acclimating in partial shade. Short-term light problem solved.
Yeah.
But now the papyrus is happy. It's ready for that big vertical growth. And that success creates a whole new set of problems. Engineering problems, logistics in the pond. So we shift from light to actual physics. The notes list 4 big operational uncertainties the writer still needs to figure out for the permanent setup.
And this is where you see just how complex handling a specialized vertical potted aquatic plant really is. Because papyrus isn't fully submerged, right? It's a bog plant, a marginal plant. So every decision is a balancing act.
Let's break down those 4 questions the writer has.
Yeah.
Starting with the ones about housing the plant. What specific container to use and how to arrange that pot in the pond? Why is a container choice so important for papyrus?
Oh, it's huge. It's about stability, control, and root restriction. Papyrus grows incredibly vigorously. When it matures, it can be 6 to 10 feet tall, maybe more. Think about the leverage that height creates in the wind. Even a moderate breeze, If you use a standard narrow pot like a regular terracotta one, the center of gravity is way too high. First decent gust and boom, it topples over.
Right.
So you need something broad-based and heavy, often a specialized pond basket or maybe a sturdy plastic tub, but definitely weighted down. And the material matters too for heat. Dark pots in shallow water, they soak up sun, can literally cook the roots, stress the plant, slow it down. So a lighter color or careful placement is needed to manage that heat risk.
Okay, so the sheer size and structural needs lead right into the third unknown from the notes, whether a rack might be needed to support the pot's base. For someone listening who might just think, I'll just chuck the pot in the water, why is support so critical? It's not just about keeping it upright, is it?
No, not at all. And this is crucial for anyone with a pond liner. Two big reasons. First, if you have a flexible liner like vinyl or EPDM rubber setting, a heavy pot directly on it is risky. Over time, the weight plus the constant tiny shifts from the plant moving in the wind, it can wear through. Puncture the liner. A stable, broad-based rack, ideally with smooth edges, spreads that load. It protects your whole pond investment from leaks.
Wow, okay, so the rack isn't just a stand. It's like insurance against a pond disaster.
Pretty much, yeah. And the second reason is depth control. Pond bottoms, especially in naturalistic setups, are rarely perfectly flat. A rack or some kind of support structure lets the gardener level the pot precisely. So the papyrus grows straight up, not leaning over like the Tower of Pisa.
Right, that makes sense. Which brings us to the final and maybe the most critical unknown listed, the make or break question. Whether the plant should be partially or fully submerged.
This one really defines survival. Papyrus is a marginal plant. Its crown, that point where the roots meet the stems, it needs access to air. It has to sit just above the waterline. That's how it evolved. If you fully submerge it, so the whole pot and the crown are underwater, you're almost guaranteed to get deadly crown rot. The plant will fail fast.
So partial submersion isn't just like the best way. It's biologically necessary, full stop.
Right.
But if it's that critical, why is the writer unsure? Wouldn't you just automatically aim for partial submersion?
Because maintaining that perfect partial submersion level, that's an ongoing engineering headache, especially outdoors. Pond water levels fluctuate constantly, evaporation in the summer sun, massive downpours. If you just place the pot on the bottom, a heavy rain could easily raise the water level enough to drown the crown. Rot sets in. On the flip side, a hot, dry week could drop the level, leave the roots high and dry, stress again. So the setup needs to be adjustable, maybe using bricks, or ideally that rack we talked about, or very precisely engineered to handle the typical water level changes.
That complexity really shows the gap between just reading about it and actually doing it, doesn't it? The notes make it clear. The engineering at part containers, support, water level, that's the big remaining hurdle. The writer's got the patience, obviously, but now they need a solid plan. Stable against wind, safe from rot.
Exactly. And if you zoom out, the papyrus's success hinges on hitting that Goldilocks zone. It needs to be stable enough for wind, the base needs to be broad enough not to pierce the liner, and it needs to be placed at just the right depth. Wet feet, dry crown, always.
That is a challenging set of constraints. Definitely shows the dedication needed for this kind of specialized aquatic gardening.
It does. So to kind of synthesize the key knowledge here for you, the listener, introducing this plant involved mastering 3 stages. First, patience just finding the thing took time. Second, that crucial initial acclimation, using partial shade, using observation to ease the shock. And third, the upcoming pretty complex challenge of engineering that stable partial submersion system. It has to fight physics and biology.
Yeah, that adjustment based on observation, not just the books. That feels like the most immediately useful takeaway from these notes. Okay, so for one final provocative thought for you to chew on building on all this, given those specific structural challenges, the heavy pot, the wind leverage, that constant threat of crown rot, what single, often overlooked factor might actually be more critical for the plant's long-term survival? Is it getting the light conditions exactly right during that initial acclimation phase? Or is it the long-term day-in, day-out operational challenge of maintaining that precise partial versus full submersion depth every single day for years? Think about which failure mode, light shock or root rot, is quicker, more immediately fatal for the papyrus. We'll leave you to mull that one over.